I'd like to call the Charter Township of Chesterfield regular Township Board meeting for Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to order. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Deputy Clerk Niza, would you please call the roll? I'd like to also note that Clerk Barry and Trustee Joseph have been excused from tonight's meeting due to prior commitments. Deputy Niza.
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee DeMink.
Here.
And Trustee Vosberg.
Here.
Item 4, approval of 4A, approval of the agenda. Deputy Niza.
Approval of the agenda with addendum if necessary.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Trustee DeMink,
Support.
supported by Treasurer Elliott.
Trustee DeMink. Aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 5, presentations. There are no presentations tonight. We will go directly to item 6, department reports. We'll start out with Trustee DeMink.
From Leisure Services, the Chesterfield Leisure Services Department is looking to hire several positions in the next few months. Leisure Services Site Manager, ages 18 up, and Leisure Services Assistant, ages 16 and up. Positions will be largely at the Chesterfield Community Center, working part-time year-round up to 30 hours per week. Day, evening, and weekend shifts are available for flexible scheduling. Visit chesterfieldtownship.org to apply online for these brand-new positions. Recognition of time served on the Parks and Rec Commission is due to Kathy Norris, a 2-year member who put in a resignation at the August 28th meeting. Thank you for your dedicated service and volunteerism to our community. There are currently 2 seats open on the Parks and Rec Commission. If you have an interest in serving on the 22-23 committee, please express your interest to Supervisor Kersten by phone or email. Service includes a stipend for 1 monthly committee meeting that meets the last Wednesday of the month at 6:30. Christmas traditions will return this year. Hold on a second. Pull this down. Will return this year with the reestablishment of the traditional tree lighting ceremony held at the township offices on December 1st. Santa will arrive at 7 p.m. to take photos with all the children of the township. Save the date. No registration is needed for this community-free wide event. Thank you, sir.
Director Sonnenberg and Trustee Vosberg, this is in tandem? In regards to the Rotary?
Right. Well, I'll let Josh start
Okay.
and finish if he wants to.
Thank you. As you can see on the screen, I'm happy to announce that we have received another donation from the fantastic Rotary Club to the tune of $6,000 we're going to construct a bench, kind of a scenic little area with a bench and a trash can, a little garden area, and a concrete pad, like you can see, at our Salt River Nature Center. In the past, they provided a $5,000 donation for our literacy trail, which consists of some stones with some educational boards going like throughout the Salt River Nature Center. And this is the next step. We can't tell, or I can't express how grateful we are. These little donations mean a lot, and they make a big impact in our community. So this slide here will show kind of what our concept is, and as we work through that concept, we'll discuss it more. But I think there's another slide, if we have one, Karen, sorry. Next page, sorry. Next one. Right here, yeah, this one here was the last donation that they gave to us, which shows the trail where it was placed at the Salt River Nature Center. If anybody's been through there, we get a ton of compliments on it. The literacy boards have turned out really nice, and we got a lot of positive feedback. And I think there's one more picture, Karen, if there is, which just shows, yeah, it's basically simple concept. It's kind of a aluminum pole on a stone with the board similar to that placed throughout the park. And what's nice is we can change them and move them around throughout the season. So we're looking forward to taking this next step with them, and we just wanted to say thanks for the donation.
May I speak here? Thank you, Josh,
Yes.
for illustrating the project. And there will be a date when Rotary will present the check once the project is ready to go and everything is in place for what's going to be ordered. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you. So just a short report on the township investments, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Karen. The investments by account type, we have 41% in money market and savings account and 59% in CDs and bonds. On the per bank, we have several banking relationships. As you can see, JP Morgan Chase has 21% of the accounts, Comerica 31%. Huntington is in the investment portion is 18%, and in the banks is 4%. Flagstar Bank has 17%, and then we have 6% in our federal home loans. And per fund, the public safety is the largest portion of the township investments. The general fund is at 26%, sewer and water is 23%, and trust and agency is 3%. And so the yields, if I don't know if anybody had watched about a year or so ago when I had done a presentation on how low the banks were paying in CDs and those secure investments, we were down to say 10 cents per $100 in investments. And as the interest rates have been rising, the silver lining in that is, at least in this space, the rates are rising. So our June rate is a little bit more than it was any other time in the year, and then the next report will include July, August, and September. So we have a total of $22 million that we have in the bank right now, and its an average yield is a little bit less than 0.5%, and then that will go up for the next quarter. Thank you, Karen. And I would just request that we'll send this report, the full report, to the clerk's office. It was sent to them today, and just request that they put that in the minutes, please, for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Elliott. No further department reports. We will move on to item 7, consent agenda. Deputy Nyza.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any of these items is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Public comments on the consent agenda items are permitted. 7A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 13th, 2022. B, approval of the payment of the bills as submitted by the Finance Department. And C, approve consent agenda item for emergency repairs of a 1997 Sutphen Aerial Fire Truck that recently suffered engine head gasket failure and requires rear engine housing seal and associated replacement parts. Total cost of rebuild, including parts and labor, is $15,414.70.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Demink, Trustee Demink, supported by Trustee Vosberg. Comments from the public?
John Spica, 53978 Connor Drive. Just a couple questions on the bill run. I noticed on the bill run, the fuel costs, again, we were starting to peak down on the fuel costs, and fuel costs are going back up again in the township. So I actually presented a plan to the board on an idea on how to cut fuel costs down, and never heard anything back. So I was just wondering if there's anything in the works, or if you've considered, the idea of implementing what I had brought to you. And on the fuel costs, can we put the month on it? Because I noticed on the last bill run last month, we're a month behind. So on this one here, I couldn't tell if we're caught up yet on the fuel costs because there was no month on there. And then on the bill run, I noticed our costs, again, for normal maintenance in the township, for oil changes, brakes, tire rotations are on the rise again. We've got a fleet manager that we hired that's supposed to do this, and Yeah, again, we're subcontracting a lot of the work out to Bell Tire, which I have no problem with, you know, they're in the township, but I mean, if we've got a fleet manager that's supposed to handle that, well, that's the direction that we should be going. And to the board-appointed supervisor, you know, if you would have installed that oil rack a long time ago, we would have saved a ton of money in the township. So as a concerned resident, taxpayer, homeowner, and a candidate running for supervisor, anytime we waste money, it really irks me. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? Any further comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back up to the board. I have a motion by trustee Demink. I'm sorry. I have a motion by trustee Demink, supported by trustee Vosberg, to approve the consent agenda as read. Deputy Nyza.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
And Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Item 8, the public hearing. Item 8A.
Hold a public hearing of necessity for the 2022 Sidewalk Gap Program on Tuesday, September 27, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Chesterfield Township Hall located at 47275 Sugarbush Road, Chesterfield, Michigan 48047.
Do I have a motion to open the public
So moved.
hearing for the sidewalk gap program? Trustee Vosberg,
Support.
supported by Treasurer Elliott. Deputy Nyza, will you call the roll?
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
And Trustee Demink.
Aye.
We'll open the public hearing for the sidewalk gap program at 7:12. Mr. O'Connor, do you want to address this, or?
Good evening. Karen, could you put the map of the project? This is the public hearing, so this is when people, property owners that are within the project, this is their time to ask questions, and we're available to answer them. So once the visual of the project is helpful, and then I guess we would open it up.
Yep, we'll open up to the public. My apologies, I got sidetracked. Open it up to the public for comments on the 2022 sidewalk gap program. Any comments from the public? Please step to the mic, state your comments.
Larry Stavro, 18341 Rainier, Macomb, Michigan. I own the property at 25250 23 Mile, and my question is, you guys are assessing almost $6,000 for 90 feet of sidewalk. How did that come about? That works out to like $12 a square foot.
So
How did you guys arrive to this assessment?
it was placed out for public bid. The contractors were public bids were taken by each vendor, and I will admit, you want to address anything further? It was based on the lowest price, based on material and service.
So, in my concern is, because there were three, it was one 3-acre parcel that was cut up, and now I have 2 vacant lots there. I think you went too far. I think you got to go east of or west of the credit union, right there, next to that vacant house. One more, that lot and the lot next to it. So we're going to be breaking ground in the spring and building on those, and part of our plan obviously was to put sidewalks in, and I can do it for much less than what I'd be assessed.
Did you get a hold of the building department when you pulled, well, you haven't pulled
I
a
haven't
permit
pulled
yet?
permits yet.
Okay, there is an option that we can discuss with you in regards to that, and to address exactly what your concerns are. So,
Okay.
Mitch, I don't know, do you want to?
Yeah, to go back to the first comment, the project was publicly bid, and these costs are based on that bid amount. It's to excavate the 8 to 10 inches of material, to form it up, pour the sidewalk, bring in the base. But if he is building, it makes a lot more sense to build the sidewalks after the site is built than before the site is built. So,
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I think if you get with the building department, Gary, you know Gary DeMaster?
Oh, sure do.
He will accommodate this request, and we'll work with you on it.
What's the timeline on this?
the timeline is, they're gonna start in October.
Oh, this year.
This year, oh, yeah. So we'll meet with the contractor, we'll get a hold of you also.
Okay.
And again, it makes sense construction-wise to build the house first, then the sidewalk.
We will tear them.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes total sense. Any further comments from the public?
Yes, a few questions regarding the schematics on there. It looks as if the property next to the credit union also is getting a driveway. Is that what I'm assuming from that little shaded portion right there? And I'm also wondering why it just appears that the placement of the sidewalk is going to be very jagged in the sense that is it avoiding natural obstacles, especially in that portion right next to the driveway where it looks like it's almost at the road. And then the final thing about it is it looks to be that it is the gaps regarding just that side of the road. And it's just kind of interesting having two sidewalks on the roadway, which is great, but then also the consideration of, there's many places that don't even have any sidewalks on either side of a roadway. And I'm wondering what the prioritization on this project is. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? No further comments from the public? Bring it back up to the board. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Oh, I'm sorry, trustee.
Just a point of clarification, this gap sidewalk program, this is commercial property, correct, that we're talking about here? Versus-
Mix of both. As you, the gentleman that just addressed the board is the residential pieces, which would be west of Fairchild, past the credit union towards the Macomb Township border.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything, Mitch?
No, you have it. The properties furthest west are vacant, which are about to be built, to understand, in the springtime. So it's commercial from there, heading east.
Some gentleman's property west, it's, majority of it's commercial, except for that piece we're talking
Correct.
about. And that's gonna be addressed,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
We'll work with him on whatever his timing is for building the houses, so. Do I have a motion to close
Motion to close public hearing.
public hearing? Trustee Domingue?
Support.
Supported again by trustee Vosberg. Clerk, Deputy Nigel, would you call the roll?
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Public hearing's closed at 7:20. Item 9A, the regular agenda.
9A, recommendation by Department of Public Services for the Township Board to adopt Resolution Number 2022-27, 2022 Sidewalk Gap Program Finding of Necessity.
Do I have a motion to approve item 9A?
Motion to approve.
Trustee Domingue. Supervisor Kersten will support. Comments from the board? Trustee Anderson.
Yes, sir. We have existing ordinances where any new construction, the sidewalks have to be provided. That's baked right into the process, isn't it correct?
That is correct. As part of a site plan process, it includes the construction of a sidewalk. Same thing for residential properties, they have to build a sidewalk also.
Okay, just differentiating from the other program we have in place with the township. This is a little separate, so thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the public? Seeing no comments from the public, bring it back to the board. I have a motion by trustee Demink, supported by Supervisor Kersten to approve item 9A as read. Deputy Nysa.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
And Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Item 9B.
Item 9B, adopt proclamation number 2022-15 to recognize October 9th through 15th, 2022 as National Fire Prevention Week.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Support.
Trustee Anderson, supported by trustee Demink. Deputy Nysa, if you want to read the proclamation.
Whereas National Fire Prevention Week is observed in the United States and Canada during the week from Sunday to Saturday, in which October 9th falls commemorating the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. In 1920, the first National Fire Prevention Day proclamation was issued by President Woodrow Wilson to mark the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 and keep the public informed about the importance of fire prevention. President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed the first National Fire Prevention Week on October 4th through 10th, 1925, noting that in all previous years, some 15,000 lives were lost to fire in the United States, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. The citizens of Chesterfield Township should be sure everyone in their home understands the sounds of the alarms and knows how to respond. And the residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their fire department, and that members of fire departments recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, and whereas the members of the Chesterfield Township Department of Public Safety are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all citizens of Chesterfield Township, and whereas the Chesterfield Department of Public Safety has grown to be a progressive and professional public safety agency, which unceasingly provides a public vital safety service, and now therefore on this 27th day of September 2022, and on behalf of the Chesterfield Township Board of Trustees, does hereby proclaim the week of October 9th through 15th, 2022 as National Fire Prevention Week in the Chesterfield Township, Michigan.
Thank you, Deputy Nysa. Do you have any comments from the public in regards to the proclamation as read? Any comments from the trustees? I have a motion by trustee Anderson, supported by trustee Demink, to approve the proclamation as read by Deputy Nysa. Deputy Nysa, would you call the roll?
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
And Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Item 9C.
Approve a recommendation by Leisure Services Department to establish trick-or-treat hours in Chesterfield Township on Monday, October 31st, 2022, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Do I have a motion to approve the trick-or-treating hours?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Treasurer Elliott, supported by trustee Vosberg. Comments from the public? Any comments from the board?
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 9D.
Approve a recommendation by Leisure Services Department to approve the municipal credit and community credit contract for fiscal year 2023 between Chesterfield Township and Richmond Lennox EMS, and adopt resolution number 2022-28, authorization to purchase community transit services from the Richmond Lennox EMS with smart municipal credits and community credits.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Demink,
Support.
supported by trustee Vosberg. Director White, would you like to address this topic?
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, it's always a privilege to come down and speak with you. I represent your neighbors in Lennox Township, where I am their public safety director, and where we extend services that we provide through our small buses and smart bus to the township of Chesterfield and its residents. Before you tonight's the annual community credit, municipal credit contract that enters into this kind of three-party agreement between Chesterfield Township, our community, and Smart Bus. These credits, for the purpose of the public, get confusing because it's not actual dollars that, if you will, roll through the township. They're monies that are set aside following the or with use of the countywide millage that communities can allocate only for the purpose of providing public transportation, and that's what you're asked to do this evening. I thought it's worthwhile to share, just so people know what their dollars are being used for, that in 2020, certainly we were in the throes of the more serious parts of the COVID pandemic. We certainly saw rider numbers drop significantly at that point. And we were at about 2,200 rides here in Chesterfield Township, even with that going on. By 2021, as we came out of the pandemic years, we increased to about 3,000 rides here in the township, so we saw about a 27% increase. This year, we are on pace to be at about 4,000 rides, so an additional 25% increase. So in about a 2-year period, we've seen about a 52% increase in ridership here in Chesterfield Township as people are back out and getting out into the public, and your leisure services department, your recreation department, your seniors are both out doing trips again and involved in use of community service. Today we offer a number of services to the residents here. One is something we just started, which I'm really pleased with because it's really kind of taken off for us, and that is we began on Tuesday after Labor Day assigning some of the buses to same-day service. What we found is it's nice for people to be able to set appointments for things like dialysis and oncology and other transportation needs they may need for medical appointments, but sometimes people wake up in the morning and need a ride for whatever reason that might be. And so we started that the day after Labor Day, and we're averaging about a dozen rides a day for people that are needing service immediately. We had started the last time we were here our airport shuttle service, which is incredibly popular with our population. All the communities that we serve, we'll actually pick people up at their homes, take them down to the airport, drop them off at their terminal, and then pick them up after their flight and return them home. There's no additional cost for that other than the millage you pay to SMART. So in other words, there's no out-of-pocket cost for that. We started that service really as an idea to be able to provide something back to the community who isn't within the senior and disabled population, which we had served a lot of with these small buses, but who all pay the tax for these small buses. And so we started that service to be able to give something back to I call it the middle-aged homeowner who said, geez, why am I paying this? And what do I get for those taxes other than knowing that I'm helping my senior and disabled neighbors? And this was a way to add that. It's incredibly popular. It operates every day for about 10 hours a day, getting people to and from the airport. The only difference between it and, if you will, Metro car, really, is that you may ride down with another person. We may pick up somebody in Richmond, who has a flight at the same time as you, and then we may pick up another 2 people in New Haven, and then we may pick you up in Chesterfield and get you all to the airport for your flights on time. In Chesterfield Township, the number one user of your service, every community is a little different. It is kind of funny. In Chesterfield Township, the number one user of your service of rides provided is actually your recreational programs here, your leisure services programs. That's fine. Like I say, this is built so every community can really use the service the way they want to. And in Chesterfield, that's just where we see the majority of rides provided. We provide rides to work. A lot of times that person that might be bagging your groceries at the Myers or stocking the shelves at the Home Depot have gotten there on board our buses. And then during the pandemic, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we got real versatile with the use of some of the dollars, and SMART let us use those to actually use our scheduling department to schedule people to provide about 16,000 vaccines from our building in Richmond on 32 Mile Road. So these funds have been used in a number of different ways outside of where they started, which was just to really focus on the seniors and the disabled and the medically needy in our communities who needed transportation services to get to literally life-saving care when you go to kidney dialysis, but didn't need an ambulance. And so that's what got us started in this. That's still kind of the hallmark of what we do. I think it's probably the most important part of what we do. But it kind of has morphed into this much bigger event. Again, all these services are provided to the citizens of Chesterfield and the rest of the communities at no cost outside of the millage that is paid. This year, we requested a little bit more money in your municipal and community credits, still making sure we left sufficient funds for your charter services that your recreation program might be able to use. I think, recreation is an incredibly important part of kind of a vibrant community, and so we never want to come in and say, geez, we have to take all the money. But this last year, to give you just some rough idea, and I know you've all felt it here, we had about a 15% increase in wages. We had an increase of from $60,000 a year annually for fuel costs to about $102,000 in fuel costs just from the increasing inflation. And our insurance, maintenance, and capital inflation, like everybody else, increased the operating costs by about $80,000. So we had to come to all the communities and say, if we want to keep services at the same level, we need a few more dollars to do that with. And we had some great meetings with your leisure services, recreation, senior folks, where we explained all this to them, and they were very understanding about it. And those meetings, I think, produced a reasonable contract with regard to those credits put before you. So I painted a pretty rosy picture up until now, and now I have to give you the little bit of grim reality going forward. I think it'd be inappropriate if I got up and told you all is well without sharing the next little bit of information I have. On November 8th, the SMART millage is up for renewal on the October ballot. That's the millage that pays for the services that I just told you about, as well as the big buses that you have in your community that operate up and down Gratiot Avenue. It's a renewal of the previous millage. It's actually there's a fraction of a rollback in there, but it's unnoticeable as far as the fraction of the number. But it is no more money than what you have paid in the past. I'm not allowed to tell people as a public employee whether they should vote yes or no on this. What I can tell you simply is these are the services that we provide. What I can also assure you is this. We are your neighbors in Lennox Township, but we can't afford to fund SMART for you if this millage fails. And so if this millage fails, I just want to make clear, there is no soft landing. There is no plan B. There is no ability to put something else in place. If we all wake up on November 9th and the millage has failed in Macomb County, we will begin to dismantle service that morning at 9 a.m. And I would suspect by Thanksgiving it will not exist any longer. And that is the reality of the millage. And for me to get up and tell you anything different would be simply wrong. It'd be misleading, frankly. And so somebody said to me I was at a recent public meeting, and I'll just kind of conclude with this. They said, do you have a flyer about this? I said, yes, my flyer is, this is going away if the millage fails. I don't have a flyer. I don't know that people read them anyways. But I need people to hear and understand that the reality of what that election will mean on November 8th, at least for your public transportation. So with that, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, unless there are any questions, I've taken up way too much of your time, but I do appreciate the opportunity to report to you on the status of your local small bus community public transportation.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your comments and the position you're in. Comments from the board? No comments from the board? Comments from the public?
John Speaka, 53978 Connor Drive. In regards to the program that was just explained, I think this is a good program, especially for our seniors, disabled, and our community in whole. And to the board-appointed supervisor, is there a Plan B that we have in the works in case the millage goes down? So we've known about this for a while, so just wondering if you could share with the public if you've even thought about it or if we have a Plan B for our residents. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public?
In this situation, maintaining the status quo is the proper response, and so maintaining the current millage as it is very beneficial for the community as well as the county and the region as a whole. Transit is vitally important for people because it is actually one of the cornerstones of what has built up industrial America. If you are not aware, Chesterfield actually had a component of the interurban rail line that went from Detroit to Port Huron, run through here along Gratiot Avenue and made the turn at 23 Mile Road. There was actually a power station for it in New Baltimore. So Chesterfield actually does have a rich history as part of the transit within the metropolitan area. But aside from the distant past of over 100 years ago, community busing, the notion of consistent transportation around within our community is extremely important, especially since we have a very disjointed community, as it's not in a typical grid-like pattern. We are adhering to certain natural boundaries and other political boundaries as well. It is very helpful when we do have proper transportation resources at our advantage, and I think SMART covers that well, and I will hope to see it expand in the future, but for now it just needs to be saved, and every vote toward it is vitally important because the last time it came down to just a few votes, and to risk that now, especially when so few people have access to means of transportation, and when they do, it is very expensive. I think it's definitely one of those things of a few dollars per year is worth it for people who don't have access to vehicles, who cannot drive, who cannot afford to drive, cannot afford the gas to drive, who need to get around in order to do jobs, go to school, to do anything. Even just this program can help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Seeing no further comments from the public, we'll bring it back up to the board. I have a motion by trustee DeMink, supported by
I have a
Treasurer Ellis,
question
please.
for Director White. Hello, thank you for your presentation. So let me ask you just a quick question about the agenda item. So it's about $100,000 in credits, is that correct?
I believe it was 105,000
Okay.
and change, but yes.
Right.
I did.
So the township collects about 1.8 million for Smart Bus. And so then that goes from the township when we collect that money, and that goes back to Smart to distribute. And that provides the services. This is about 100,000 in credits that we use that we're not paying for, is that correct? Is that how that works?
Yes, about 100,000 of that money is returned here to Chesterfield Township to be used for local community transportation.
Okay, and then you also, you have the buses that are going, and the buses that are used in Chesterfield, what buses are those? The ones that go up and down Gratiot and that's it, or are there others?
No, we
Yeah.
have, so the buses, the large buses that you see up and down Gratiot, we have nothing to do with. We operate small community shuttles, they call them, which are kind of the size of an airport shuttle bus. So when you see those vehicles, those are what you use. We operate through our community in kind of a regional fashion with these small buses. So we have 11 of them. 9 of them go out every morning. We always have to have something in reserve for repairs and maintenance and what have you. And those 9 buses are shared with some of your other neighbors. So in Lenox Township and Richmond and Ray, those buses are shared amongst your community, and New Baltimore, those buses are shared amongst your communities, and we route them accordingly to pick up the greatest number of people we can. But it basically is a house-to-house thing. So we don't have any specific route that they run. They don't run specifically up and down Gratiot. They run where they need to run based on those users that call us. Like I say, some of it is pre-scheduled, some of it is kind of more instantaneous, kind of Uber-like that we operate. But we don't have a specific route like the line haul buses do.
I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between the services that you provide, and I appreciate you giving us that clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott, just a point of reference, when we have special events here, like we did with the big trucks event, it was those buses that the director sent down here to shuttle parking. Those smaller ones, not the green ones.
We'll be
Just
doing
point of
that
reference.
again
Right.
coming up, Mr. Supervisor. You mentioned Fire Prevention Week, which is near and dear to my heart as well. You have a big event here in your community, and we'll be providing buses for that event because they have to, again, shuttle people from a parking area to the fire department for your fire prevention date that's
And
right
again,
around
that's
the
an added luxury that we get from the service because of what you do when they call you for those transports for parking off-site, both for the police open house, fire open house, and then whatever Parks and Rec puts together. Those are those services.
Thank you for bringing that up. What would happen if this millage did fail? What would happen with this particular arrangement? It would just go away?
They would
Yes,
just,
we don't have that service anymore.
those would not be available, nor would the arrangements that get people, to and from, and I always go back to this, to and from kidney dialysis, to and from oncology appointments, to and from physical therapy. Those two would all go
Can
away.
so you're in the EMS field too. The resources of this bus alone, generally the patients or the at-home in-care patients would call 911 and ask for an ambulance to be transported to dialysis to their medical doctors, which is a strain on the EMS system, whether it be in Richmond or whether it be here in Chesterfield with MedStar. or anywhere.
That's what got us in the business initially, was that strain.
That's my point here, and you know it much better than me. But this element of transportation reduces and lets his EMS trucks be out serving, ready for emergencies, much like any other demand. The value of this system is unseen because it's used and discreetly, and he's expanded on it with the metro or with the transports to shopping and the airports and all those other things just to make it viable, continue to make it viable. So.
Do you have the statistics or data of, say, the ages or income levels of your users?
We don't, we could get some data for you on ages, our system currently. Probably one of the areas that we, as transit providers, need to improve on is kind of our data collection, in all honesty. But I could tell you how many seniors and how many handicapped people we take. I would not be able to give you a specific age range, but I could certainly give you a breakdown of that, and I'll be happy to send it. I can send it over through the supervisor's office, and that I have his email so that you'll have that information, because I like people to have the information I can provide. We won't have specific ages And then there was one other question that you had besides.
Oh, just, yeah, like the data. I think you mentioned disabled and seniors, and I think that's, that's basically where I was going, is trying to get, some understanding so people have that information.
Very good.
Thank you
We'll
so much.
Be happy to get that to you.
Trustee Vosper, you wanted time?
I hadn't asked it, but I just want to thank you again for your presentation and for all the support over the years of SMART. Our family has used the small buses for, there was a time, an semi-emergency, not enough to call 911, but needed some transportation for medical care. And for the other uses, you'd mentioned the airport. That's a great service that's provided, and I'm very grateful for another way of getting people to where they need to be. Thank you.
So it'd be worthwhile to mention, just while we're on recording, Mr. Supervisor, that the phone number for getting any of these services there's a toll-free number. It's 844-666-5652. Again, that's 844-666-5652. Those numbers are, or that number is answered during regular business hours for scheduling of appointments or same-day service.
Any further comments from the board? Treasurer Light?
I have also used the service as well to get to the airport, and I do recommend it for the Chesterfield residents. It's quite helpful, especially if you have a large family. Thank you.
Thank you. No further comments from the board? I have a motion by Trustee Demink, supported by Trustee Vosper, to approve item 9D. Deputy Niza.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosper.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
And Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Item 9E.
Approve the recommendation by Supervisor Kersten to approve the Bassmaster Host Agreement.
Do I have a motion to approve item 9E?
Motion to approve.
Treasurer Elliott, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Supervisor Kersten. Director Sonnenberg, do you want to hit this off? This has been in the works for at least the last year, and a lot of detail. We've partnered with several entities and agencies, and go ahead, Josh, I'll let you fill in the blanks.
So yeah, I know just to give everybody a quick backstory, we were approached by Macomb County and some other groups, and this is actually kind of a big deal because there's a lot of people that actually fight for this tournament. What I've been told is they actually have people that come into town and pitch them on this tournament. And what was nice is they actually came to us because of some of the work that's been done in our shoreline and a recommendation from Macomb County. So when they came to town, we actually went through, after going through several phone calls and several conversations and back and forth, they actually flew into town and we spent 4 hours on site with a grilling of questions and answers and drawings and going through some planning. And what I did like about the process is they are so detail-oriented that it made you feel pretty good about our team and our process that we were selected. So I can report to you, I know I can't say too much because there's some confidentiality on the contract itself, but I can tell you that this is done all over the country in select locations, and we're fortunate because Lake St. Clair is actually, because we're now involved in this, I've never watched, sorry, I apologize to the Bassmaster team, but I've watched more Bassmaster in the last 6 months than I ever have in my whole entire life, just getting to know their systems and how they work and how interesting it is. And come to find out, Lake St. Clair is on their top 100 list, number 4. So they really do like coming to town, they really value it, and they looked at other sites and they came to us and approached us. And I'm super excited to announce that we have been selected. It's just a matter of going through these next steps. Macomb County is a great partner. They have hosted this 11 out of the last 12 years. They have hosted this and other events similar, so they bring a lot of expertise. We're in the works also with partnering with some nonprofits and the Anchor Bay Chamber. They're going to be our kind of our event host, so any profits that are made actually goes back to these nonprofits, so we're looking at some of that, and there'll be a lot of discussions about this once we get through this first hoop moving forward over the next year as we move into this phase. So I'm just here to kind of answer any rough questions that I can, if anybody has any. But I guess you can tell in my voice that I'm pretty excited about being selected with this process.
Any comments from the board? Treasurer? Trustee Bosworth?
Thank you. This is great news. Glad to, I know it was announced last meeting that you would have more details at this meeting. Can you tell what the relationship is between the township and the county economic development? Because it seemed like they're part of this process as well.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of people involved at the county at all levels. Our teams mostly meet with Jerry Santero and his team at the county. We've had several meetings with him, a couple this week, and we plan to have them monthly moving forward and then weekly. So they were a big part of this. Without them, this doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? No comments from the public? Just a couple comments from me. Again, this is, I want to thank Josh and his group, and then also Macomb Economic Development, Detroit Sports Commission. As I said last year, this is going to bring ESPN about 10 to 15,000 people into our township over a 3-day period, highlighting the area, and I think we can really shine in July of next year. So I appreciate the consideration on this topic. Josh, a lot of work being done, both with you and other staff members here in the township. So that being said, I have a motion by Treasurer Elliott, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 9E. Deputy Niza.
Treasurer Elliott?
I just wanted to say thank you to Supervisor Kersten before you.
Oh,
I know that this was your baby. It was right from the beginning. It was your suggestion. You had said that you'd always thought that this would be really great, and I just want to tell you that I'm really proud of you and the job you've done on this. And with that, aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten?
aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Demink?
Aye.
And Trustee Vosburgh.
Aye.
Item 9F.
Approve the recommendation by Human Resources to adopt Chesterfield Township's Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan, MERS, Defined Benefit Plan Adoption Agreement Addendums.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Demink, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Deputy Duchesne.
Members of the board, this is a format change and document only. There is no provision change. The MERS organization has been attempting to re-adopt all of their benefit plan adoption agreements into a standard form statewide, and they're now achieving about 90% of that, so we're one of the ones that will be making the change. It is strictly a format change. The documents you see has been restructured, so it'll be common and visible for anybody who wants to reference any of them in a indexed fashion, and that is the only change here. But we must adopt it as a amendment because the form has changed, and that is the sole purpose of this action I recommend tonight.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from the board? Seeing no comments from the board. Comments from the public? No comments from the public. We'll bring it back up to the board. I have a motion by Trustee Demink, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 9F as presented. Deputy Niza.
Trustee Demink?
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
And Trustee Vosburgh.
Aye.
Item 10, addendums. There are no addendums necessary. Item 11, comments from the public. There is a 5-minute time limit. The clock will start when you begin to speak. If you would, please provide your name for the record. Comments from the public.
Good evening, Chesterfield Township residents and board members. My name is John Spica, and I reside at 539 78 Connor Drive. I'm a homeowner in Chesterfield Township who pays property taxes, and I'm running for supervisor in the township on the November 8th ballot. The supervisor's race is only 6 weeks out, 42 days away from today. In 42 days, the residents are going to have to decide between a candidate speaker who believes in democracy, who is fiscally responsible, and who will always put the residents of Chesterfield and the township first, no matter what. It's Chesterfield first in a speaker administration. My opponent, the board-appointed supervisor, is an autocrat, someone who insists on complete obedience from others. So my opponent, the board-appointed supervisor's number one priority is to cater to the wealthy and well-connected in and out of the township. He doesn't care about Chesterfield or anyone that lives here. My opponent answers to his campaign donors. What our board-appointed supervisor doesn't want the residents of Chesterfield to know about him. My opponent, the board-appointed supervisor, doesn't own a home in Chesterfield, doesn't pay property taxes on a home in Chesterfield. He has no skin in the game. His real home is in Emmett, Michigan. This is the same individual who now wants Chesterfield residents' vote. My opponent is counting on the residents in the township to not pay attention on what he is doing or has done and will automatically vote for him because he is running on the Republican ticket. I totally disagree with the board-appointed supervisor's assessment. A candidate should never take anyone's vote for granted. The board-appointed supervisor started off with the 22 budget with a negative operating budget deficit of $1.8 million in the red and counting. Didn't make any necessary cuts and continued to make budget amendments throughout the year, just adding more debt to the budget. Under the board-appointed supervisor, the cell tower on Jefferson went up. The board-appointed supervisor gave developers on the north end of the township an early Christmas present. Merry Christmas, Chesterfield. The board-appointed supervisor gave builders and developers a sewer line on the north end of the township on the backs of the voters and the residents of Chesterfield. A sewer line on 26 Mile Road, a handout to the wealthy and well-connected. Residents don't pay for sewer lines for developers. The board-appointed supervisor hired a lobbying firm to come into the township at $4,000 a month, which the residents are paying to get himself elected, in my opinion. He only brought the lobbying firm in until after the election. The board-appointed supervisor voted to spend $26,000 on a half-gallon of paint for rebranding in the township. Since the board-appointed supervisor has been here, 16 valuable employees have either been pushed out or quit. During the water crisis in Chesterfield, the board-appointed supervisor fumbled the ball on the 1-yard line. He couldn't handle the crisis in the township. The board-appointed supervisor weaponizes his position or fill-in supervisor in the township to benefit himself. The board-appointed supervisor can't tell the truth if his life depended on it. I am challenging the board-appointed supervisor to a debate. The residents of Chesterfield want a debate and should get one. I have a question for the board-appointed supervisor. I've been told from a couple sources that you are in possession of a special radio that you have been asked several times to turn in. You are no longer in charge of public safety. We have a new public safety director that's doing a fabulous job. I'm going to ask you, before we lose our licensing from the FBI, turn that radio in. You're not in charge of public safety anymore. What is the delay in turning that radio in? What happened to the board-appointed supervisor? The taxpayers paid $1,470 2 weeks ago on a bill run for broken glass that one of our subcontractors broke. I brought it out. I pointed it out to you. Have we gotten in touch with them? Because they should pay for that, not the taxpayers. And the other thing, the board-appointed supervisor, you're working on the 23 budget. So on this 23 budget, I should be included in this 23 budget. And is there going to be a peaceful transfer of power after the election is my other question. Or do we have to call Chester?
Any further comments from the public?
Well, if you two want to debate, I'll gladly moderate it for everyone. Other than that, I do hope everybody comes to the Chesterfield Fire Department open house and learn about fire safety. Fire safety is vitally important for much of society. As I've always stressed up on here, it is always a danger within everyone's homes, within everyone's businesses, within nature itself. And there's many things we can do to mitigate the unnecessary risks to provide for better safety for ourselves and our family and everyone we care about. So please come to that, and hope to see everyone there. Other than that, hope everybody takes note that we are in fall now, so hope the changing leaves are always going to be a good sight. Take care and have a good night.
Any further comments from the public? Any further comments from the public? Bring back up to the board. Trustee Anderson, I'll start with you tonight.
Thank you. Days are getting shorter, school's back in session, be careful out there. Thank you.
Trustee Demink.
First, I'd like to extend a great thanks to Director Bassett and the Public Safety Department, the FD and the PD, for their handling of the tragic situation that occurred in our township last week Friday. It was very tragic. It was a rough scene. I've talked to the guys. I've seen some, but this one was pretty rough, and it takes a toll on you. So to all those fire and PD, you know, take care of yourselves, and a great job, well done. And Director Bassett, a great job by you. And the next thing, FBI and radios, Mr. Speaker, that's a good one. That is a really good one. You know, you're in auto sales, I'm in law enforcement. I haven't heard about this one yet, but that's pretty good. That's one of the better ones. All I can say is, if we want to talk federal, maybe people should Google a name on some federal places and see what turns up, and that's all I'm going to say.
Trustee Vosper. Treasurer Elliott.
I want to thank the Rotary for your donation. Salt River Nature Center is looking really fantastic and coming along nicely. Thank you so much for, I see representatives here from Rotary, and I just want to thank you for your commitment to that and to the community. Also, I want to mention at the last board meeting, our Clerk Barry mentioned adding some ordinance language to our township website regarding the marijuana ordinance that is on the ballot. That ballot question is simply, shall the voters of the Township of Chesterfield approve an ordinance to provide for the number of marijuana establishments allowed within the municipality? As I mentioned at the last board meeting, and I'll mention again at this one, I addressed the Election Commission on both times that they met regarding this ballot language, as my concern is for the legal ramifications to the township if this were to pass, if this were to ordinance were to pass. And the issues are, as I'll read it again, is shall the voters of the township of Chesterfield approve an ordinance, and it is highly unusual for voters to approve an ordinance. It's normally that's something that a township board does. It also says a number, what number, which voters. So there's not clarity there in what the number is. Clerk Barry believes that it's unlimited. Is a number unlimited? Unlimited by the very definition is to be void of a number. So with this, in the way that it's written, I have concerns. So I've asked several attorneys, our own and the attorney at the county, about this, and it's just very unclear. The lack of clarity is where my concern is that who makes these decisions? And so what will the board do? And administratively, the only thing that I seem to be getting consistently is that it's a legal problem. if it does pass. And so that is my concern, and I'm going to continue to try to bring awareness to that issue. If you compare that to the language in Memphis, has language, and it'll say, in that language, it says, shall the city of Memphis, and it's very similar, but it says, shall the city of Memphis, and then it's very specific. This language is very broad and almost impossible to administer, so it puts the township board in a tough situation. So I just continue to bring awareness to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Elliott. Couple things, Trustee Link, there's nothing there that, it's completely laughable, so not even worth commenting on. Again, Director Bassett, nothing but compliments for the public safety team over the last week, and praise from several officials, public officials, for professionalism, conduct, appearance, and then obviously tactics and investigative services. So prayers for the family, the difficult situation. We'll be managing that for several months to come. There's another birthday from an antique person around here. Gotta do it. You're old. Trustee Deming, happy birthday. Brandenburg Park. It's turned into a jewel, and the lobbying firm that we contracted with has done outstanding work in the last couple of months. We are very close to, I may be a little bit ahead of myself, we're not quite there, but we're almost at the finish line where Brandenburg Park will be solely owned by Chesterfield Township, and we will control and manage that entire ground. And again, we cut through a lot of red tape because of the lobbying group that came in. This past weekend, we had the Gratiot Cruise, and both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Ballard need to be recognized for their dedication, time, and effort to get that cruise going off. And on top of that, there was a $5,000 donation to the Friends of Chesterfield Police Benevolent Fund to again care for and manage our public safety officers that may need help. So a nice donation at that cruise. That cruise has gone so well for the last few years. Even on a rainy day, they exceeded their expectations. And a conversation with Mr. Ballard and Mr. Johnson out there and seeing, we're going to start getting involved in that on a municipal level. And again, promoting that and providing some services for them. I think we can help, and it only enhances our business in our Gratiot corridor. So we will begin those conversations. Michelle Vanderson will spearhead that in the coming months. She just found out about it, but and the comments on the water crisis. There was a pipe broke up in St. Clair County. There was no water crisis here. Again, Mitch O'Connor and his group did a great thing, great service to the township. We did not have a crisis here. So with that being said, I have no further comments. I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
At 8:08. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.